Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we're going to talk about some of the exciting new things that are supposedly coming out for Kiss in 2025. We'll address some of the rumors that are out there and what our wish list is. Alrighty, lots to cover in this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. I'm excited to have back with me yet again. This is 3 times in just like 10 days, I feel like we've gotten together. My comrade, Mr. Vincent LaRussa, boogieing over there already. How you doing, Bloody?
Here I go again, out on my own.
Except you're not on your own.
I said not on my own. I
Oh,
just
you
said
said not on.
not
Sorry.
on my own.
I missed that little ad lib in there.
I'm doing quite well. Yes, thank you for having me again. I don't
Yes.
even know what the hell are we talking about today?
Well, we're finally going to fulfill our promise to the fans out there, right?
Hmm.
So, if you recall, like 10 days ago, we were going to do a Kiss episode. And then I think, like, literally that same day that we said we were going to record the Kiss episode, the Black Sabbath reunion was announced. And I said, well,
Oh
let's
yeah,
pivot. Let's do the Black Sabbath one.
again with the
Then
pivot. You're like pivot boy.
I'm like, pivot boy.
What
I
is
like that
what
word,
is
pivot.
2025 the year of the pivot?
The year of the pivot. I like the word pivot. It's a strong word. I like that word. Yes.
Too many years of accounting, my friend, and spreadsheets for you.
Maybe that could be.
Uh,
That definitely could be. But and then we were going to do the Kiss episode earlier this week, and then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced their inductees, and we said,
mm.
all right, let's pivot once more, and we went over to that. But I said, we've got to get this Kiss episode in the bag already and get it out there. So finally, for all you viewers out there that are like Angora with the Aussies, Angora with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you're finally getting your Kiss episode today.
Again, you fix.
That's right, exactly. And I know I've mentioned on multiple occasions on this on the podcast that I've been speaking with Pop House a few times in the last year, a couple of times even recently. And I can't share every detail of that because I'm not allowed to. That they'll announce things when they're ready to announce it. But I could say that I know in 2025, and I've said this before, that there's a bunch of things that are planned, and I think most Kiss fans will be thoroughly thrilled. I'm sure some Kiss fans will say, "Oh, that's not cool. That's not good. Whatever." That's just the nature of music fans in general, not just Kiss fans. But I
Yes.
know about 10 days ago, I won't say his name, but Kiss fans know who it was. But somebody who's in the inner circle dripped out there a little bit of details, and I figured, yeah, let's get on. Let's talk about that a little bit, and maybe talk a little bit about our wish list, or especially in your side, well, what would you wish for? So I guess the first thing that was dripped out there is that there's going to be not one, but two box sets this year. I know I have both the Destroyer and the Creatures of the Night box sets, and I get thoroughly thrilled over those releases. I love having the demos and the live concerts and all of that. So knowing that there's going to be two more after they took a year off last year, to me, is exciting news just in and of itself, right? So I was glad that that has dripped out there and it's been confirmed that there'll be two box sets this year. I guess my first question for you, knowing that these are pricey, do you think two box sets in 1 year is one too many, maybe? Or do you like that there's going to be two in 1 year?
Well, I think that if they space it out, because let's face facts. We know Kiss fans are pretty rabid about buying new product, and I'm just curious this time around because the band is not active in a live sense anymore. Is there going to be more traction to this stuff or less? Like,
Hmm.
are they you know in the spotlight like they once were in the news, where it's kind of in your brain, or now that they've kind of, I mean, look, we just seen recently there was an interview with Billy Corgan and Gene Simmons, and
Yeah.
I've seen I think there was another interview. Who was it with? I told you to watch it. God, I think it was the guy from Jackass, so one of those guys. I
Hmm.
forgot the guy's name. Who did one with Paul Stanley in a
Yep.
van or some shit. But
Right. Yep.
so look, they're still they're still talking about the band, and mostly about the band. I mean, most of those interviews, it's not like Paul's talking. He might dip his toe in his what he does with his artwork, or maybe Soul Station for about 3 seconds, but it's mostly all about Kiss. Let's face
Agreed.
fact. So I'm curious to see what's the appetite for this product. But to answer your question,
Well, yeah,
I
before
think
you answer the question, I would think
yeah,
that there would be a bigger appetite, perhaps because A, people have more disposable income. They're not going to 72 concerts from the end of the road tour. And I think people just miss the band. So I'd be surprised if there's not a bigger appetite. Just my
yeah.
initial thought, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think that the if I would a betting man, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
The thing about these products, and as you know, it was the Destroyer one, and it was Creature of the Night, was it?
Yep.
Right. I didn't buy either product, mainly because of cost. But you know what? The main reason why, I got to be honest, why this stuff was all readily available on the software that I subscribe to Tidal, or if you're Spotify. So I got to listen to all that stuff without having to buy it.
Right.
The
That's what I was
thing
gonna
I
say.
would,
You didn't buy it, but you streamed it and you listened to it that
oh
way.
yeah, but my point being is it kind of to me devalues the
Hmm.
product because I could listen to it for free,
Right.
and at that point I'm like, your excitement is to hear those things, right? Now you hear them, and then you think, all right, well, it'd still be nice to have the book, I guess. It'd still be nice to have, and it is a beautiful product. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form putting that stuff down.
No, no, no.
For me, at this point in my life, to have more things, as you know, I
Well,
was
well, I was
already
gonna
have.
say with all your guitars, you have no room for anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have a room
So
for a cassette or an 8 track, let alone a box set.
true. Um, I mean, it's kind of like a one and done for me. I get it. I open it, I look at it, and it gets. I mean, I've said this before about the solo album stuff, which it wasn't nearly as nice of what they put out
Sure.
like with the Destroyer. It was a beautiful package, having them all there and the
Yeah,
colored vinyl, and but I opened it once and it sat on that same shelf since what, 5 6 6 years. That was like 2019, 18, I
something like
think,
that.
even.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Pre-pandemic, I know that.
it's nice to have, but some ways it's like that I get torn between that. It's like when
Hmm.
I didn't know, because there was a couple times where the Creatures box set, like on Amazon, went down in price, or I think it was Destroyer, and I was like, I nearly bought it, but kind of went back and forth on that.
Right.
So, but the bottom line is I'm happy they're putting out this stuff, because if it's not for me to buy, I'm happy that Kiss fans are getting things that they want. So this is not about me.
Right. Right.
This is about feeding the Kiss fans the stuff that they kind of still want to celebrate the band. The Kiss always use that to celebrate the band.
Hmm.
And it's nice to have these anniversary sets. And I think it makes it really worthwhile when you're getting stuff you never saw or never heard.
Agreed.
And that's what
Agreed.
I really would you know get me excited about buying it.
So then let me ask you this. Whether you stream it or buy it, the stuff that you've never heard before, do you prefer that to be demos, full concerts, maybe alternate takes, recordings of the songs, interviews from that time period? What is it that's your sweet spot when you say, "Hey, I've never heard this before," that you want to hear?
The number one thing would be writing session, if that existed.
Hmm.
That would be number one, a writing session. Number two would be
So
another
if they had
demo.
like 2 hours of them writing, I don't know, "I Stole Your Love." That's just the first song that came to mind, right? Don't
Yeah,
read into that's the box set, right? It's just the first song, literally. It's one of my
the whole
favorite Kiss
box set's
songs.
going to be called "I Stole Your
Yeah,
Love."
that's right. But so if they had 2 hours of Stanley writing that song on tape, would you want to hear all 2 hours? Obviously, we'd want to hear all 2 hours, but realistically, on a box like this, what would you hope for 10 minutes of it? Is that good enough? A half hour? What would be your sweet spot for something like that?
No, I mean, I would want, you know, you really don't have any time restrictions on a digital product, number one,
Yep.
technically. Vinyl, you do. I would want to hear as much as that as possible. I don't want to hear a 10-minute snippet. You know, the best parts of some of those things, which I've heard before, it's just the little things, the little conversation, the laughter in between, or
Yes.
them getting up to say, I got to take a leak or whatever they're going to do or whatever.
Yeah.
I've heard all kinds of different things like that. We were talking, I think it was yesterday, about the interview that Gene did recently, and he was talking about how Paul and he wrote songs. And he was like, a lot of times, Paul would come up with a chord, the chords of a song, and I would come up with the riffs. And I think he was talking about Black Diamond, which you brought up. I think that's credited to Paul, so I'm a little
Right.
confused on that one. But maybe it was credit to him, and he didn't take credit for that. But yeah, I would love to hear the conversation in that room when they're first trying to work out, down, 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 with the bad notes, trying to
Right.
find the notes. I mean, to hear, where it started and where, I mean, as far as I know, especially with the early stuff, except for hearing live recordings before they were signed per se,
Yeah.
where you've heard different, arrangements of Strutter and stuff like that, where the Kernan Wise supposedly said, all right, we got to kind of condense this. And I think they don't get enough credit for that. Well, the fish tank's on.
Yes, I noticed.
So yeah, the writing sessions, and then after that, any demo recordings of that,
So let's stick with the writing sessions for a moment.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking of Dynasty, and I'm thinking of Dynasty because there's writing sessions out there for I Was Made for Loving You, Sure Knows Something, and Dirty Living. And each of those are like an hour and a half, 2 hours each, tapes that are out there. But in a box set, would you prefer to get this? I know you said that they're not limited in time, but they're also not going to release 92 hours for one product, right? Would you rather get 10-minute or 15-minute snippets of 4 or 5 songs, or would you rather get a 1 hour snippet of one song?
I'd rather get the 4 or 5 snippets, I think, at
Yeah,
that point,
me
to get a
too.
little taste of everything. Because after a while, and I've heard some of these writing sessions from not just Kiss or other bands, it gets a little long and it's kind of very repetitive.
Yep.
And
That's
some
why I
things
asked
to
you
move into
because,
this,
yeah, agreed.
and some things are hard to hear sometimes. But yeah, it's interesting because we know that there's a lot of stuff that's been held close to the band, and even perhaps from other band members who used to be in the band who was involved in, maybe it was rehearsals or whatever. I mean, this is stuff I'm not knowing as fact, but stuff I'm just, come
Right.
on,
We've
played
heard
in
the
bands for
stories.
years.
Mhm.
Yeah, listen, I used to back in the day bring a boom box to rehearsals and record and then bring it home and listen to live
Yes,
parts. Everybody's done that, especially back in the day.
exactly.
So I'm sure, those guys, have stuff, and
No, look, Gene released on his Vault thing, him and Bob Dylan, like 15, 20 minutes writing a song together. So that there's tons more of that type of stuff, I'm sure, with, like you said, the guys in Kiss.
yeah, absolutely. It's I just can't, imagine like hearing some sort of session, even Paul by himself writing Love Gun or something like that. That'd be, that's such an iconic song. I mean, I know for you that's never been one of your favorites, but I'd be look title track from
Mhm.
their 77. Right? I
Yep.
got that right. The album,
Yep.
right? 78. So, I mean, that'd be awesome to hear something like that.
So is that, if you would say, your number one song, if you could hear a writing session from, it would be the song Love Gun?
No, it would have to be something from the first album. I would love to hear the nucleus of those first songs. I mean, Douche, Strutter, Black Diamond, Nothing to Lose, your favorite Cold Gin,
Mhm.
I mean, it'd be really cool. I mean, just think about like Ace Frehley presenting Cold Gin, because let's face facts, he wrote the song, right? Was that all his melody? Like, how did he present it? How did he sing
Over
it
the
in
years,
key?
they've said that they had to tweak that and they
Yeah,
modified some of it.
but I
So,
want to hear the original presentation. I'm sure
right,
that most likely that doesn't exist on any tape or anything. You know what I mean? I
probably
wouldn't
not.
think, but
Mhm.
but imagine that. Even you would even have to admit it's not one of your favorite
Oh,
songs.
I'd be, my toe would friggin' shoot through my sneaker if
Yeah,
that happens. I'd thoroughly
and,
throwed.
right, and unfortunately, we know from recent years that Ace had a bunch of cassettes of stuff, Kiss related, that kind of got lost lost in a relationship. Let's just say that, which is a
Well
damn shame.
said.
Yeah,
Well said. Yeah.
because when we saw the that stuff was all posted online, and I mean, it's a shame, if we ever get to hear any of that in our lifetime. And so that stuff is out there, and it'd be interesting, with the power and the might of pop art, right?
Pop House.
Pop house, sorry. If they're able to persuade people to let go of some of this stuff too, because
Right.
maybe they'll just say, "Listen, we'll give you $1 million. Give me that cassette, whatever it is." You know,
Which I'm sure they're not going to pay $1 million for a cassette, but your point
well,
is still well
but
taken.
if they went to Bruce Kulick to say, and I'm not saying he has a cassette that's worth $1 million, but you know, Bruce might think, you know what? That's a lot of extra pancakes I could make. You know, so
Absolutely. I agree. So yeah, all right. So writing sessions would be your first, and it sounded like you were
yeah,
starting to say demos would probably be your second.
yeah, yeah.
Demo or an alternate take? Which is your preference?
Demo.
Demo. Yeah, me too,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, because the demo is like we know how it ended up, right? But what was presented? Usually, the demos is presented to the band and or the producer
Right.
to say, is this good? Do we think this is going to make the cut? You know, um, you know, like what was Paul Stanley's reaction the first time Gene Simmons presented Burns Bitch Bird and he heard, you know, I want to put my log in your fireplace. Did Paul roll his eye? Go, oh, Gene, you really, you know?
Well, that would be worth having on video.
Yeah.
Paul put, oh, let me hear the song, put it on the tape and sing. We're never going to get that, obviously,
But you saw in that
oh,
video with what's his name from Smashing Pumpkins.
Billy Corgan. Yep.
Thank you. He quotes the lyric from that,
Mm-hmm.
and he says something like, "God, that was horrible," something like
Yes,
that.
he
You know,
acknowledges
so
how he realizes Gene does how ridiculous the lyric was, but he always brings that lyric up. So as ridiculous as it is, it's a pretty freaking classic lyric.
it is. It
You
is.
know?
You know,
So demos, would you prefer a demo of a song you've never heard before or one that was released and you're hearing the early version of it?
something I've never heard before, something that didn't make the album. You
Yeah,
know, just to
agreed.
weigh in. Shit, this was damn good. Why wasn't this on the album?
Right.
They put Murder in High Heels on instead of this. You
Right.
know,
Right.
come
Exactly.
on. You know what happened here?
Agreed. Agreed. So
So
then full concert from that, whatever time period, or an unreleased interview talking about the album before it came out.
I'd probably go with concert. I'm not huge on interviews. You
Mhm.
know, it depends on what the interview is about and when.
Right.
Um, you know, if there was some unreleased interview of Mark St. John that we've never heard of him joining the band and his feeling in the writing session and what he's in, you know, the Analyze record, yeah, I would definitely would want to hear something like that. I would find that very interesting because he had such a short stay in the band, you know, and
Right.
then we heard all the after, you know, about him and stuff like that.
What if it was, I'm going to make something up now. What if it was an interview with Stanley in late 75, early 76, and he was saying, hey, I just, just last night I wrote this new song, God of Thunder. I haven't presented it to the band yet. It's got this cool riff. And he's just talking about having written what's now a classic the
Yeah.
night before or the week before. What about an interview where something like that came up?
Yeah, I mean that. See, those things I don't really think exist because I think
No.
the Kiss was especially with the media. You know, there was like limited, right?
Right.
Because they didn't want to be seen, and they wanted to keep this mystique and this mystery about the band. I don't really think they, you know, I think I know I've mentioned this once before on the show. You know, there's a great video of Paul Simon talking about he's writing this song and you know it could go different ways and I'll show you a little bit of it. And it's on the Dick Cavett show and it's still crazy after all these years, which wound up being
Mhm.
one of his most brilliantly written songs. And right on the air, he's showing the song that hadn't been released yet, and it
Right.
wasn't like you know, my dog ate a shit sandwich. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's just
Right.
like
Mhm.
so. I mean, if we had something like that, you know, wait a second,
Well,
there's part of the Mike Douglas show that never aired where Gene talks about Firehouse. What? Well, you know,
well, I'm thinking of a few years back, somebody released, it was an audio interview with Eddie Van Halen, I think from 1982 or late 81, but I think it was from 82. And he's talking about writing some new songs and he lets the interviewer hear a piece of it.
mm-hmm.
Now, this is for a magazine. So, the part that he's, listening to is never going to be published at that point in 1982. But the song he's letting the interviewer hear is Jump. Only
Yeah.
it's 2 years before it was released, and he's literally excited that he just had written this on the keyboard. To me, when I heard that, I'm like, how freaking cool is that? That somebody actually was interviewing him, and Eddie brought this up and let him hear a little clip of it. I don't know that any Kiss interviews like that. exist, but you never know if they were being interviewed for Cream magazine or whatever, and they had a good rapport with Lisa Robinson, and Paul Stanley was like, "Oh, let me let you hear a little clip of something I wrote last night." That would be really friggin' cool. I don't know that anything like this ever exists, but that would really so because I tend to agree with you. The interview stuff would probably be last on the list, but something like
Mhm.
that, it may go very close to the top all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask
Um,
you this. Two box sets this year. I'm going to break it up into different eras of the band, right? I won't even talk about reunion and post reunion because I know you're never going to answer with that being your answer. I'm going to break the 70s into three pieces on you just to make this difficult. The first three Kiss albums plus Alive, the next three Kiss albums plus Alive 2, or the late 70s, Dynasty, Unmasked, or the 80s or the 90s. So I gave you just now five eras.
okay.
And I know you're probably like, oh, what were those again? I
Yeah.
broke the 70s into three, right? Pre-Alive,
Yeah.
Alive 2, and then post-Alive 2, and then the 80s
Right.
and 90s. Which of those eras would you hope to get a box set from the most?
For a particular album.
Just talk the eras for a moment, even. You could say album if you want, but I have a feeling you're going to say the early 70s because you brought up that first Kiss album a few times. But
Is this an anniversary type of thing? I mean, what are we talking
doesn't have to
about?
be anniversary, right? The box sets don't have, they have been historically anniversary editions, but they don't have to be. I'm just saying, what would Vincent LaRusso, the Pop House calls Vincent LaRusso tomorrow and says, Vin, we've got box sets for every album ready to go. Which one do you think we should release?
Well, first of all, I don't think the first album was ever properly celebrated,
Right.
on its anniversary, right? It's two
No, it
years
was not.
past, right?
Yep.
So that would be my first choice, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I just don't think it was and I don't think it wasn't
No, it
properly,
wasn't.
celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my first choice for sure.
Okay.
Um, um, it's an interesting time period, that unmasked elder time.
Yeah.
It's almost like for shits and gigs. I would love the I would love something to I would love for them to I just let me start again. I think, and we've done ratings on the Elder, and I think we did rating on Unmasked. Did we do rating on Unmasked, the album?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if
Okay.
we did the Elder, but I think we did a mess.
Yeah, we did the Elder. I'm
Did
pretty
we?
sure.
All right. I have to go
Yes, we
back and
did.
look. Okay.
Yes, we did. Um, I think those records, even though they maybe not be their strongest records, there's just something about that time. Not special, but special. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally makes sense to me.
It's just like they lost so many people, right, during that time. And yet, looking back at those records, they're better than I think what they thought they were at the time, or people thought they were at the time. Am I making
Agreed.
any sense?
No, I think you're spot on, actually.
I remember your excitement. I was there when you got unmasked. I
Yeah.
came and your mom brought it to you, or you brought it. I remember, are they gonna really have the makeup off? And me and you were discussing. Oh, I late. And then we got it, and we're looking at him like, this is unmasked.
Right.
Where are they
Right.
unmasked, right?
Right. Exactly.
Um, but I particularly am very fond of those two records, especially Unmasked for whatever reason. I don't know. There's
Hmm.
something about that record. It's really just something about it. And the other thing was, like, Gene Simmons was talking about I Was Made for Loving You and how pissed off a lot of fans. But meanwhile, the song was tremendously successful even at that time.
Agreed.
So how many people did it? It did piss off Kiss fans. Let's not. But I hate it when people said it's a disco record, and it's not.
It's not. No. No.
Totally
I
not.
argue this all the time. Dynasty, if you take Dirty Living and I Was Made for Loving You off of Dynasty, to my ears, it's not that much different than the Love Gun album.
Yeah, that's a fair.
You
You
know?
know.
To me, I could put a song like Hard Times next to a song like Plastic Casta, and there's not much of a difference in sound, and the band, they're very similar to me.
Yeah,
So
I don't think anything drives as hard, just quick thinking,
yeah,
as like a Love Gun or I Stole Your Love on Dynasty. I mean, drives as hard,
right.
where, you know, um, but I think it's a fair pairing.
But to me, if you think about songs like Almost Human, Plastic Casta, Hooligan,
Yeah,
then She Kissed Me,
yeah,
those four songs, Tomorrow and Tonight, Got Love for Sale, how
Yeah.
different are those from the stuff that's on Dynasty, excluding I Was Made for Loving You and Dirty Living?
Well, let's not mince words here. I was made for love you is a disco song. Period.
Yes.
End.
Yeah.
That
And I
doesn't
would
make
say this, I think Save Your Love is in the ballpark of a song like Love Gun. I'm not saying it's as good,
no.
but in terms of a driving song, Save Your Love is not that far off of Love Gun, I don't think.
No.
My opinion.
No. I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
but
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 yeah,
yeah,
so I agree with you. I'll say this though. So you were saying I would love to get a box set for the Elder. I would love to hear that original version of the album with the supposedly like talking narration between the songs. I would love, and I know somebody just
yeah.
recently put something up on YouTube and it's like a 2 hour version of The Elder. He did an incredible job with it, but I want to hear what was originally really supposed to be The Elder. I would love to hear Unmasked and the original demos of those songs that they claim had a harder edge to them, probably like Love Gun, maybe, or something like that. I would love to hear that. We've heard the demo for You're All That I Want. I know that that's out there. I don't think there's, off the top of my head, I can't recall hearing any other demos from songs that are on Unmasked. I would love to hear what those songs sound like. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you. As much as everybody points to the classic era, the 74 to 77 time period, there's something that's unique about that late 70s time period. And even the 80s, as we've gotten older and older, I'm like, man, it would be great to have a box set from Asylum. It would be great to have a box set from Crazy Nights,
Yeah.
Um, I'm not saying that I like those albums as much as Rock and Roll Over, which is my all-time favorite album, or Hotter Than Hell, but there's a certain charm to those albums, and they really haven't been explored anywhere near as much. To me, it would be exciting to get something from those.
Listen, I have very fond memories of Crazy Nights
Yeah.
when that album came out. Part of it
I
is
think
part
that
of
was our very first look back episode we ever did, and you were like, I want to do Crazy Nights. I don't think that gets the love it deserves.
yeah, and it's also being a late teenager or you're part
Yeah.
of your life being last year of high school. There's a lot of memories I have of that record, listening to it a zillion times on the B train, getting my friends into it who were casual
Yeah.
Kiss fans at that point. It was it was and going to that tour or getting that freaking tour book, which was the size of my wall, and having to try to put it on the seat without it getting crushed. It was like,
Uh-huh.
"Geez, make this thing any bigger," you know what I mean? Yeah, I love that era of Kiss. I love, even like Hot in the Shade. I remember the excitement of the record. I mean, no, I don't think that record has aged well. That's one we haven't done.
No, we haven't. Yeah,
Maybe that'll be next.
that would be good.
I'll do a hostile takeover of your show. Yeah, I just I love that was just I recently watched like the videos for Asylum and as crazy not crazy as ridiculous as Gene looks at them. There's just still fun videos. Who Wants to Be Lonely and Tears Are Falling. I just still love watching that.
Agreed.
It's because it. And I was watching with a friend and like it was so much fun this era of music. They just everybody looked like they were having so it was ridiculous and the girls all and this and that but that's what it was. It was the culture of the genre of music and
Yep.
sure I wasn't crying about seeing that
Nope.
as a 15, 16-year old.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny that you're saying this because, and I'm sure you haven't seen it, but a couple of hours ago on my Facebook page, I posted, as I've been doing every day, this day in concert history comments. And today I happened to listen to and make comments on Kiss on the Asylum tour in Portland, Oregon on this day 39 years ago. And exactly what I wrote is almost what you're saying right now. If you look on a piece of paper of the set list, you'd say, it's a little weak in the sense that it was at one point the show was solo, song, solo, song. Solo is like, all right, that's not really the best set list like that. And they clearly didn't do anywhere near as many songs from the new album as you'd like to see when you're promoting a new album. But what I wrote in my review is if you listen to this and you hear the crowd and there was something about it, there was a certain excitement and there was a certain amount of fun that everybody was having, band and fans alike. And even though Paul was doing his god-awful 7-minute introduction to Love Gun, which I cringe at when I think of it, I'm like, they could have been doing 2 more songs. When you listen to a tape from that time period, the crowd is eating it up and they love it and they're just having fun. And there's something as we've gotten older that I think maybe it's just because we're older, but we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit where it's not as much fun. I don't know how else to say it. Now everybody's like,
Mm.
oh, they should have done this, they should have done that. Oh, when
Well,
fill in the blank for a lot of the bands that we listen to, it's not just a Kiss comment.
and then also, I'm not saying there wasn't any playback of tracks or hitting. Well, at least if there's a keyboard player behind stage, at least he's still playing the damn
Right.
instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, it was at least nice to know that.
And on the Silent Tour, to my knowledge, there was nobody behind the curtain.
Right. Was Crazy Nights the first?
Crazy Nights, yeah. Mhm.
Because they had all the keyboard stuff in
Right.
there.
Yep.
I know Bruce took part on the keyboard and like Leave Reason to Live, right?
Right. Yes.
But I
Yes.
think with some of the other stuff,
Gary Corbett was usually with them.
yeah. It's that's like the biggest, you know, concert prices are ridiculous to begin with. But when I see like, the Eagles are playing and Don Henley's vocals the same vocal every night, I'm like, come
Right.
on,
Yep.
come on. Even
Yep.
I've seen evidence and like the videos are out there, and I'm not picking on anyone, but like even of Taylor Swift, I'm like,
Yep.
there's no excuse for this. I just don't
Yep.
understand it. I understand when you get to a certain age and you don't have the pipes anymore and you can't sing, but when you're still young enough to do it, like I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and for me, I don't like I hate when I see, and all artists do this now, the earpiece in, and you
Yeah.
know that they got a click track going in their ear, and they're trying to synchronize everything with the screens, and it loses a certain edge and rawness to it. And I don't care if it's Metallica, Taylor Swift, or anything in between. All artists do that now, and it just loses a little bit of spontaneity to the shows.
As great as Kiss's last tour was with those pods and the big
Yep.
screen in the back, give me the Love Gun stage anytime, pure like that with the steps, and I'll take that any day of the week.
Agreed.
Because I'm a technology guy, but I don't need it shoved down my throat. And
Agreed.
the fact that they use all that means that they got to do all this other shit, that they can't just improvise from night to night. They can't go off course. I mean, look, there are times where you remember in the 80s, I think you had sent me something at one point where they jammed on, a Zeppelin song for, for a minute, or they did Won't Get Fooled Again, or whatever they did, it was just like kind of off the cuff, just dicking around, Oh Susanna, some shit like that.
Yep.
Like, wasn't there one with the
Yep.
like they wanted to something like,
Uh-huh.
I would take that over any piece of technology on
Agreed.
any given night. They still did the lights and still did the fire, and it's still like a lot of excitement.
Yes.
But I don't need all that.
I agree. So this is a perfect segue to another thing that was dripped out there then, was that there's going to be new off the soundboard releases coming out this year. So we're talking about the concert and the live experience. So we were talking about the box sets and our preference for era. For me, with the off the soundboard releases, one of the things that drives me crazy, and I see so many people online do this, they're like, oh, I hope they release, and then they name a common bootleg or a common video that's out there. And I always scratch my head and I'm like, why in the world do you, fan X, whoever you are, want them to officially release something that we've had access to for 10, 20, 30, 40 years? In my mind, I remember when they released the Mark St. John show, right, a couple of years ago on the Off the Soundboard things. Nobody even knew that show existed. I would have never put it on my wish list because Mark only played 2.5 shows with them. I wouldn't have thought it was even possible to have one of those. And then all of a sudden they drop something like that. And I'm like, that's friggin' awesome. I love that they have something like that. To me, with the Off the Soundboards, and supposedly this one's going to be something that's not in any collector's hands, I would love to get an Off the Soundboard that it's not something we have. It could be something that maybe has been recorded with an audience recording, but now we're going to get a quote unquote soundboard. Right, maybe something like that. Like if it was Eric Carr's first show at the Palladium, soundboard recording, I'd be thrilled about that.
Absolutely.
I'd be thrilled. Is there?
Do we even know if that exists?
No. No, I've never heard of one existing. I would be shocked if Kiss did not record that show, just to kind of go back and say, all right, this is our first show with a new drummer. How did that sound? Where do we need to make changes or whatever? I would be shocked if they didn't record it, but I've never heard that they did.
The only caveat is sometimes, you work with the venue to get it. Oh, we had a technical problem. The
Of course.
recording, or through the years the tape got burned and some loss, and that's why these things don't surface.
Of course, yep. But to me, I would hope that it's something like that. Plus, selfishly for myself, I've always said I wanted a nice, clean version of the live performance of your role that I want, which they only did for like 15, 20 shows. So that would be high on my list. I'd love to get a nice soundboard of that. Is there anything off the top of your head that you're like, hey, this show would be cool to have on and off the soundboard?
A show, a particular
Yeah.
show
Well,
or
even
era?
you could say tour, era, whatever. I mean, I thought of a particular show because to me, Eric Carr's first show would be cool, but I'm curious if there's any era show tour that comes to your mind.
Well, I mean, selfishly, I would love to hear the soundboard of the show I first saw Kiss in '86 on the Asylum tour. That'd be
Okay.
really
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
And I believe that's out there in some sort of bootleg form. I
Yes,
think,
it is.
yeah. So,
Yes.
but like an official recording of that. But that's because that was my first Kiss show. But
Yeah.
um, trying to think. I'm thinking of what they've already released, so I don't
Hmm.
cross over. Would they have anything from the Love Gun tour?
Yeah, I think they released Des Moines from 77.
I was something. I just don't
Yeah.
remember them all.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, if there was a legit recording of the Winterland recording, like a real official off the soundboard, because
Hmm.
obviously we've seen the video of it and it's a soundboard recording. That would be awesome to have.
Okay. Yeah, you see, and for me, I'd rather have a different show from that time period since I've
Well,
got the
just because
video.
yeah, but I mean, I've seen the video. I've heard the bootleg of the whatever you want to call it, the
Mhm.
audio. It's kind of flat. There's no low end to it. I would just
Right.
love to hear a full version of that.
Yeah. Look, I have no objection. Let it be like the show the following night, just so I could my ears could hear something it hasn't heard
Yeah,
before. I agree with you. I mean, that time period would be great. The Hotter Than Hell tour would be great to have
yeah,
something
yeah.
professionally done. In my mind, as long as it's not something that's been in collectors' hands for, like I said, decades, I get excited over those releases. Yeah, so we'll see what comes of that and what it'll be. That'll be an interesting one. I know they also mentioned, and I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on this as somebody who works for a living with computers and all that, that they're going to relaunch Kiss Online website in March with an all new look. Have you been on their website at all in the last couple of months, years, or whatever?
I think so. Yeah, I have. There
Okay.
was a couple times something come in, it's a new product, and it just takes me there. But I haven't really gone and navigate. But I'm familiar enough,
Right. Yeah.
especially when the tour was still on and I was looking at stuff, of that nature.
Yeah. To
So
me, when I heard that, I'm like, it's about time. I'm no graphic designer and I know nothing about creating websites, but the Kiss Online website to me always feels stale. And I don't mean stale in terms of information on it. I just mean there's something about it that just feels old. Maybe that's a better word. It just
yeah,
feels old to me. So to me, it would be nice to get a whole new look on that. So, and supposedly there's going to be new merch drops this year also. And I know it was mentioned that Just to Kill and Alive both turned 50 this year, and there'll be new merch drops for those albums. So it'll
that's
be
nice.
interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to
Yeah,
see how they celebrate those. And to me, especially Alive is such a landmark album for them. They better celebrate that one the right way to me. I mean, that's the one that pretty much made their career.
absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this somewhere earlier this week. This is not through Pop House, to my knowledge, and not through Kiss, but somebody posted a link that there's going to be a 50th anniversary celebration at Cadillac for the whole event that they did in October of 75. And I've always been so intrigued with that concert, that whole event. I've got pictures that people took privately at that I love. There's just something about that. If you were to ask me one event, so I was going to ask you about like Kiss is going to release the documentary for the End of the Road, right? Which is going to be cool. I'll definitely watch that. But if you were to ask me for one documentary, I would
Mm.
love to have a full documentary on that whole Cadillac event. I just love that event so
Oh
much.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be wonderful to have.
Yeah.
Um, never saw, seen footage and how the whole school participated in that and the concert. I mean, yeah, it's, it really was because at that point they weren't truly arrived. They hadn't truly arrived. They were still really trying to find the ways to push
Right
buttons
on
and
the
create it.
right on the eve of them
Right.
arriving. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's really is a cool, snapshot in time.
Yeah, it is. And I know that a few years ago when there was a lot of those video leaks, there was a leak of some of the Cadillac footage.
Mm,
Depending on which rumor you believe, some people have said that full show exists on video. I don't believe that to be true. Others have said it's not true, that there's just, a few minutes that was leaked out there a while ago. But yeah, that would be my wish list for a documentary. But we are going to get a documentary on the Kiss End of the Road tour, with an emphasis on the final shows at the Garden. I personally like that better than if they just released the final show on video. If you had a choice, would you rather see a documentary or just the full last show on video?
I probably want to see the documentary.
Yeah. I kind of feel like they had the pay-per-view. I could find that last show on video if I want it. Um, and I have it, to be quite honest with you. So
Yeah.
to me, I'd much rather get a documentary, see some of the behind the scenes. I'd love to see some of the behind the scenes, like how nervous was the band when Paul got sick just before those last shows? Was there ever any talk behind the scenes that we may have to cancel this? And at what point did they say, if he's not better by this day, we've got to
Mm,
pull the plug on what we planned in New York City? Did those conversations ever take place? I'd love to see footage
um,
of that type of stuff, so I know some people kind of rain on the parade. Oh, we don't need a documentary for the End of the Road tour or whatever. I think there's an opportunity to have something that's really good and meaty there, personally.
I would love to see the conversations that took place with Bruce Kulick and Ace Frehley and
Except those
Chris.
conversations didn't take place.
Right. Being
Uh,
sarcastic.
no, I know, but to that, I wonder if, and I doubt they put it on the documentary, but did they talk about that at all amongst them during the last 50 shows? Like, hey, should we invite Ace? Should we invite Peter, Bruce? No, we shouldn't, because I wonder if there was conversations in that moment, not
Mm,
after the fact now in an interview, but candid. I don't think they would put that in the documentary, but I'd love to see that, you
yeah,
know,
I agree. I
before
agree.
there was any feedback from fans or prior band members about not being invited. What were they thinking in that moment beforehand? That to me would make this documentary quite cool, actually. You know,
I agree. I agree.
but we'll see. We'll see what's going to come of that. All I know is that all of these things to me, and there's more that's not even dripped out there yet. There's going to be more things this year. Um, to me, it makes it a little bit exciting. I know I've seen some Kiss fans kind of criticize, gee, Pop House bought Kiss a year ago. What's going on? You don't buy something today and release something tomorrow. That's just not realistic.
Right, right, right.
There has to be a team put in place. There has to be a plan put in place and all of that. They have to understand all of the assets that they have. They're not going to just start dropping things 24 hours afterwards. So I'm not surprised that it took a year to get to this point. But now that we're at this point, to me, I'll kind of end where you started. Will there be more interest in this stuff because Kiss doesn't exist now,
Right.
as a touring entity, or less? And I just think that Kiss fans are going to be clamoring for this stuff. And I'll say for me, probably in 2025, something like a box set or an off the soundboard for something that I lived through like you said, as a teenager with some of the stuff, that might be more exciting than a new album in
Mm,
2025. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I know you're not a fan of Monster. If you were given the choice, box set or new album, what would you choose?
Well, it depends on what the box set is going to be.
Okay. So box set for Unmasked, right? I'll pick that because you said that earlier. Box set for Unmasked or a new album?
Does a box set have unreleased tracks and
Yes. Yep. All the things that we spoke about. And I only picked Unmasked because you said before that would be an interesting one. Don't read into that, people. I'm not,
yeah, yeah. The only way I would want a new album was written with all four original guys. That's it. No disrespect to Streisand, Woodward, or Howie Mandel,
People have
but
no idea
you
why you
know,
just said that. I do. Uh,
um,
except there
but
wasn't disrespect, there was no discrepancy, but that's
right, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You,
I
you,
change it. Like I'm allowed to change up.
since nobody but you and I understands the quote,
Right,
yes, you'll
exactly.
have to change
What am I?
it.
What am I going to get? Jacoby Myers is going to call me. You used the wrong language on that.
Yes. I'm going to contact them as soon as we're
Yeah,
done
yeah,
recording.
yeah. Um, yeah. Again, I think unless it's the original four members, which is never going to happen.
No,
I think I probably would want to have
a box
a
set.
box set of as long as it has stuff I've never heard before.
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed.
I don't
Yep.
want just a polished booklet and this colored vinyl.
Yeah, no. And look, I like the booklets. That's why I purchased all of these box sets. I like especially the book, the posters and that stuff I'm indifferent on. But the books were very well done, and they have stories about each of the songs on the album. I just think
Yeah,
that
that's
was
very,
all really, really well done and worth the price of admission to me.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd probably choose box set at this point over, because if I'm getting new songs that way, then I'm getting new songs.
right,
You know?
exactly.
And I don't have to worry about, well, Paul can't sing the way he used to. It's not this member on this. I'm just getting Kiss in their prime, whether it's the
Mhm.
70s, 80s, or 90s. I consider that all their prime, right? So, yeah, I'd probably prefer that, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everything that they dripped out there. I'm excited. I know that they said that this is going to start in March. Um, doesn't mean that the release is going to be in March, but I think that over the next few weeks, I think there's going to start to be some announcements, and that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm really curious to see how Kiss fans react to all of this stuff. I think most will be happy, but it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see for sure.
absolutely.
But all right, buddy. I think we've covered everything we need to. Anything else you want to say before I give us the I'll go out on the oh yeah.
No, there's nothing else. No.
All right. Well then I'll let you eat your dinner. You're sitting there saying, please, sir, please, madam, I'm
Oh,
starving.
you know, you and me both. We
Uh,
usually time this in and we're done and we go have our dinner.
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
luckily for me, my dinner is being cooked for me tonight.
Well,
So I'm gonna go as soon as we're done upstairs, and 5 minutes later,
yeah.
I'll be eating. I'll be eating nice chicken meal for me tonight.
Ah, nice.
Yes, yes.
Little chicken.
Yeah, a little chicken with some barbecue sauce.
Yeah, with the barbecue sauce.
Oh, I know that. That's right. But all right. Well, you enjoy your meal. We'll leave with the oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, bullseye barbecue sauce.
All right. And everybody who's watching and listening, let us know what you think. What are you hoping for the box sets? What are you hoping for an off the soundboard? Do you prefer demos, write-in sessions, all the things we spoke about? Let us hear your opinions. We always welcome them, and there are no right or wrong answers. So let us
Do
know.
you prefer chicken or do you prefer ribs? What do you?
Yeah. And what kind of barbecue sauce do you like on your chicken?
What's your brand?
That would be a good podcast. What kind of
Yeah.
barbecue sauces
Yeah,
does everybody
barbecue.
like? But
Yeah.
well, you're welcome to comment on that stuff. But if you only want to comment on the Kiss stuff, that's cool also.
That's right.
So
Free of charge either way.
that's right. Exactly. We won't charge you for the barbecue recommendations. But, all right. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching as always. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty, there you have it. Our thoughts and our opinions on the rumored to be releases from Kiss in the year 2025. What are you hoping for from a box set, off the soundboards, or even what do you think of the Kiss End of the Road documentary? We look forward to reading and seeing your comments and your thoughts. All opinions are welcome and there's no right or wrong answers. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.